Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you that are new here, you're definitely going to want to subscribe. We've got a lot of good content coming your way. Just before we get going, I just want to talk about a few things here. There is quite a bit of content getting requested. I got some content that I'm planning to release anyway, and some of the content that's been requested will be coming within reason. I do have requests for like 50 different things, so I'm gonna just kind of stick to the stuff that more people are asking for. It just makes more sense to do it that way. So, okay, just before we get going, let's just talk about POI selection. What is a characteristic of a good POI, and how do I pick them? So, it's a pretty common question. A lot of people end up getting a little bit confused in this area. Sometimes the POIs are really clear, sometimes they're not. So I'm just gonna list off a couple of things that can help you identify a strong POI. So, um, for those of you that have been following me recently, you'll notice I've brought in imbalance. The reason is we've had a way higher hit rate from using POIs with imbalance. So that's definitely going to be one of the requirements. So the first thing for me for a POI is it, let's see, it has to break something. Substructure, structure, break a supply, break a demand. It needs to break something. It needs to do something to validate it as a POI that is basically got any validation. If it looks like a demand zone, but it literally did like absolutely nothing, that zone may not be the most high probability zone to trade off of. So that's the first thing for me. It has to break something. Number two is this is uh this is kind of a big one for me now. For the most part, I don't even use a POI if it doesn't have imbalance anymore. So this one's been really big. And this has gone through a lot of forward testing in the live market and a lot of back testing. The data's there. It speaks for itself. Now, the third one is going to be pretty straightforward. And it actually, most of the time, imbalance and momentum come together, as momentum and imbalance are, more or less the same thing. Price came through there so quick that it left a bunch of imbalance. So the market is more likely to return to the point of imbalance and rebalance the orders. So some people consider these two different. Some people consider these two the same thing. However you want to look at it. And we're going to go into some examples too, just to give you guys an idea. Um, so for me, this one is another one that's pretty staple. I really like POIs that swept liquidity. If they didn't sweep liquidity, I would prefer it be at least a engulfing candle. So engulfing candle. And again, guys, we will go into some examples. And the big one for me too is inducement. So not every POI is going to have all of these things, but if nothing else, the top two matter to me. Um, and sweeping liquidity on Wick. I really like Wicks. Wicks are great. For those of you who don't know, too, Wicks are imbalance. So this wick right here, for example, that is a great POI. If I went down time frames, there would be imbalance in there somewhere. And you can see we had a great reaction off it. So I love wicks. One of the reasons is it's got imbalance. The other reason is it's usually the BFI stepping in and strongly pushing the market the other way. And most of the time, wicks sweep. So wicks are my favorite. Next to wicks is obviously engulfing candles. Here you get both wicks and engulfing candles. So this here would be, once again, a great demand zone if it did something. Now, I don't love this one. I wouldn't per se say it broke anything. So, what we could actually do is just check. So the 15, we did have a supply here. We broke just because it did break something that would validate for me to now use that as a supply or demand. I get these mixed up sometimes. And again, how you pull them is up to you. So for me, I would likely pull it right up to the wick, and I would likely pull these wicks as an imbalance zone because we know we don't have to come all the way to the POI. We just have to come to the imbalance. And for those of you that wonder how far I pull imbalance, so realistically, everything from here to here is imbalance. That's it's a little bit ridiculous to me. What a lot of people will do is they'll just pull imbalance to the first part that touches, and that's where their imbalance starts. For me, I look where it broke the peak. So if this is where I broke the peak, that's where I start my imbalance. And for me to take an order off imbalance without it hitting the POI, I either need multiple drives and basically price holding at imbalance, not coming any lower multiple times, or the other thing I want to see is a very, very aggressive reaction, which will look something like a candle that leaves a very long wick that's way longer than the body. But even at that, I don't like taking the first drive in. The other one that is somewhat relevant to me is if I gotta choose which part of the imbalance I want to trade from. If I'm buying, I prefer to be trading from the lower part of the imbalance, as again, it's the premium discount concept as we use the pricing. Some people do this. I don't think it's necessary. Anywhere in the POI is valid to me, but I do get a lot of trades off imbalance zones, so I definitely don't want to rule them out. Now, so these are both valid zones to me. Let's kind of play price forward, and we're just going to pull a few POIs. All right, so here, this would become a pretty decent supply to me. And I like this one because there's that little wick. We do get a little sweep. There's some imbalance left behind. I wouldn't pull too much imbalance, maybe aside from here. And let's go. All right, cool. So that's a pretty valid zone to me. Now, this here you could trade off of because if you went down time frames, it likely did break something. So on the 30-minute, this doesn't look amazing. If I go down to the 15-minute, here you do have a body break, you do have a sweep, you do have imbalance, and you have all of this lovely stuff down here that I would consider inducement. So this would validate this as a good POI. If you can't find what you're looking for, cycle through some time frames, and a lot of the times you will find what you're looking for. And as always, I don't recommend taking the first drive into a POI. Yeah, you're going to miss some trades, but you'll save yourself a lot of losers. Something else I found recently is a lot of the first chalks do fail, and they're usually liquidity for chalk 2, 3, or 4. That's something we teach in our community, higher quality chalks and lower quality chalks, how to know which ones will have higher probability. All right, So here you don't actually touch the POI on that we pulled on the 30. You reacted off the imbalance. Doesn't look like we took all the imbalance. Now here we have another POI. The sweeps up here. If you actually look, this candle swept as well. So this once again to me would be a valid zone. Some people get pretty excessive and they'll cover that whole wick. To me, that wick's been mitigated. If I did want to trade it, I would pull from the top of this wick to that wick as a POI, but that's a little bit of more advanced stuff than I want to get into today, as we're just going to keep things pretty simple. And these imbalance zones can get pretty big. Like this one here, a lot of people would probably pull it all the way down to the bottom. I don't know if I'd get that excessive, but I'd definitely pull it, to the one wick. Not really looking to trade off imbalance at the very bottom. I want it a little closer to the POI. And once again, so that is actually Frankfurt Open. So London gave you a sell off the imbalance. This is dead zone. I hope you don't trade in that time. And we'll just carry on here. So now we have a really good POI here. This one had wicks. This one had momentum. This one's got inducement up above. There is a good probability that we'll see a decent reaction from that. Even though we are bearish, there may be a buy opportunity off that. We won't be going too much into that, as I'm more just kind of showing you what I look for in POIs. So you want some sort of sweep. We want that momentum. We want that imbalance. If we get a long wick, I love that. If we get an engulfing candle, I really like that. Stuff I don't like is pulling a POI that did nothing. So to give you an example, I see guys, let's say you didn't know what happened, and I'll see guys pull this zone right here. And let's say you had a buy bias. Guys will just start buying off this because they think this is a demand zone. It's not a demand zone. It didn't do anything. It didn't break anything. This zone will be used as liquidity, more than likely. Even if we were bullish, I would not trade off this zone. This zone did not do anything. This zone here is a bit better, but again, not ideal. It didn't actually sweep either. I don't like zones that don't sweep. And you guys will hear me repeat that over and over. Now, this is, let's see, so that's it. That's into New York. You may or may not got that trade. You probably more likely caught this short or this flip zone here. All right, so just to carry on, let's just see if we got a couple of. This is another example here. This right here to me is not a demand zone on this time frame, as once again it hasn't done anything. This here I could validate as a demand zone. I don't like it because there's no sweep. Yeah, there's imbalance. Yes, it broke substructure. Could you take a short-term trade off of it? Yeah, maybe. Is this a high probability demand zone? To me, it's not. And there you go. Now, obviously, I'm guessing that's a news candle of some sort. You're going to see that we completely disregarded this POI. And if you're wondering why I disregarded that POI, is this POI here still had imbalance? There is a very high probability that the market will use this for inducement, as there is imbalance here. So we completely disregarded that. Now this here becomes a really valid supply zone. And you can see our not so good demand zone didn't do much. And these are the kind of zones we want to avoid. And again, I'll mark imbalance to about the bottom of this wick. And just to repeat myself, and by the way, like this is what I love. This long wick right here, it's great momentum. Um, if it's a news candle, there's a good chance the market will come back and fill that imbalance or even take that wick. But nevertheless, one, it could become a target. Two, it could become a good area to trade off of, especially as in this specific leg, order flow is currently bearish. So we got a reaction here. There may have been a trade in there. We're now getting a second decent reaction off the same zone. And look at the characteristics. We swept. We have imbalance. We have momentum, inducements there. This POI has not been tapped too many times. So far, only the imbalance has been tapped. So far, so good. And yeah, the main thing I want you guys to take away from this is if you don't know if it's a good POI or not, go to the 1 hour, go to the 2 hour, go to the 15 minute. On one of those time frames, you should be able to find the characteristics I'm showing you. If you can't find the characteristics I'm showing you, or you get garbage like this that you're pulling for demand, please just understand that these zones have a higher probability of failing than success, as this actually didn't do anything. Like I said, this one here you could classify as a demand because it broke this substructure, but it's a bit weak. I wouldn't take it either. And if you really want to get technical and you got into the premium and discount side of things of this range, you kind of anything close to the middle I don't really like, but that's kind of all I really wanted to get to. All right, so we did fill a good portion of this imbalance. There may or may not have been a trade in here. That's, let's see, 12 o'clock my time. I wouldn't have been traded anyway. So this is Frankfurt Open. You swept liquidity. Now, I don't love this for a PY. I really don't. We didn't sweep anything. We did have inducement. We did have imbalance. Maybe there's something there on the 15. Honestly, again, guys, I don't love this POI. I likely wouldn't have caught this short. I would, however, use this zone that swept, and I would have likely been more likely to look for a trade in this zone. And that looks like it happened right before news. So depending how close it was to news, I may have not even taken a trade either. But you can see how we're not forcing stuff. We're not putting a trade off this as a supply. I'm not looking at this as a supply. It didn't do anything major. If you look at what this supply actually did, it didn't actually break anything. There's no sweep here. Is there imbalance? Yeah. If we're wanting to sell though, do we want to sell where all the liquidity's selling? Definitely not. If we're looking to sell, we want to sell from higher up so that we don't become liquidity. Like I said, guys, to me, I can pretty much 100% guarantee you I wouldn't have caught this sell because I wouldn't have used that as a zone. However, this guy here, I would have definitely looked at. And again, like I said, this is very close to news. I may or may not have even screwed with that, being that we're so close to news. But you could just see how these zones function and which zones really do something. Like a lot of times I'll see one candle go up, like this guy here, for example. And we see this a lot from newer traders, and this is something we killed in our community. But people will see one candle here, and the next thing you see people do is do this, and they're like, all right, that's a demand I'm trading off of. And it's not a demand. It didn't break anything. And if you actually look at this particular candle, it didn't actually sweep before it took off either. I wouldn't use that as a demand zone. These key little details can help you really select better POIs. Like I said, guys, if you just cycle through the time frames, there will be something somewhere on a time frame that matches your criteria. If it doesn't, wait a few hours or wait till the next session for those of you that are able to trade both sessions. Um, Sit out a whole day. I don't know, maybe some of you even look at more than one pair. Don't force a POI. The more you force them, the more losses you take. We're looking to take quality over quantity. So that's the main thing, guys. That's about all I wanted to do in this video. Hopefully this video helps somebody. If you did enjoy this content and you did enjoy this video, definitely hit us, leave us a like, and definitely subscribe, guys. And I will see you guys in the next video. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.